Hello, I am Professor Kino and welcome to my Office of Cinematic Antiquity. Today we will be talking about... I'm gonna be pretty open here. The animated Disney films were never really a big part of my childhood. While I believe that I've seen most of them at one point or another, I've never had strong feelings about the majority of them, with Mulan being the exception. So the whole idea of remaking Aladdin never felt sinful to me like it did to a lot of people. In fact, I was actually pretty excited about the whole thing. I love Guy Ritchie as a director, even his King Arthur film, because I think he has a very unique and flashy style to his work, and I am a huge sucker for spectacle and individuality. And first impression of Will Smith's genie CGI aside, the trailers looked like it was the same old Aladdin story but with a Guy Ritchie coat of paint on it, and I was excited to see how it would all play out. So is it as bad as some naysayers were thinking it would be, or is it actually worth your time? Premise. After the charming street thief Aladdin is coerced into the Cave of Wonders by the nefarious Jafar, he ends up discovering a magical lamp that contains a genie who offers Aladdin 3 wishes. As he tries to use them to win the heart of Princess Jasmine, Aladdin is pushed into an adventure that teaches him some valuable life lessons about power and individuality. Writing. For everyone who has seen the original animated Aladdin, the story here is pretty much the same. The same events happen, the same songs are played, the same lessons are learned, so for fans of the original, this film won't hold many surprises. Aladdin is, first and foremost, a romantic fantasy, and it works just as well today as it did back in 1992. The chemistry between Aladdin and Jasmine is very believable and full of romance. This film is very romantic, and the fact that I felt it despite me seeing this film by myself is remarkable, and that it is never like, oh, it's so cute, etc., and instead like, whoa, I feel the sparks flying off the screen at me, is even better. And most of this comes down to how its 2 leads are portrayed. Aladdin is a perfect swashbuckling rapscallion, complete with a perfect sly and delightful grin. You completely understand who he is as a character, and it is so easy to like him. He doesn't change much from what he was like in the animated version, but it is perfectly adapted into live action. And Jasmine is also perfectly portrayed here. The film doubles down on her independence and strength. She is passionate about her people, and it is clear, so it is extremely easy to love her as well. And the meeting of the 2 characters plays out so perfectly that you can fully understand why the 2 fall for each other. And this version of the film actually one-ups the original animated feature by wholly showcasing that Aladdin falls for Jasmine the person, and not Jasmine the rich princess. And this type of romance in a film like this is refreshing and beautiful, and the entire film is framed with this fantastically realized love story, and it's all the better for it. In fact, the magical elements of the film only enhance it and add more wonderful aspects to it, from flying carpets to wondrous scenery to even more. The magic of this film feels fully like a part of the romance, and makes the whole experience feel so rich and full of life. And it is spectacular. And of course, the big catalyst of these magical enhancements is the genie, and this film also nails him. He is cheerful, funny, endearing, and full of so much energy that I just couldn't help but smile through most of this film because its soul is just so warm and so cheerily infectious that it just shines out of the screen and hits you right in the heart. However, this is no perfect film. The villain Jafar is very bland, and the only reason he doesn't harm the film's quality is that the conflict with him is only secondary to the magical romance. But I will say that Jafar is definitely better in the animated classic. He just doesn't add much new to this adaptation. Also, the film can come off feeling a little bit bloated at times, but because it has so much heart and openly wears it on its sleeve, it's hard to hate on it. The experience in its entirety is a really entertaining and really beautiful one, and most importantly, it does the original animated film proud. Acting. First is Mena Massoud as Aladdin himself. He is the perfect live-action version of this character. He is charming, sly, and many times clumsily romantic. He is the perfect balance of every trait that Aladdin should have, and the result is a performance that fans of the animated film should enjoy. Next up is the casting decision that most people were apprehensive about, Will Smith as the genie. You will never be able to replace Robin Williams. His version of the character is too iconic and true to him. However, Smith made the right decision to only emulate Williams' enthusiasm and energy. Instead of trying to recreate Williams' genie, Smith makes the role his own. He is frenetic, fun, lovable, and wholly Smith. His genie is unique to him and is, to be honest, one of the best parts of the film. And finishing off the main trio with an equally wonderful performance is Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. Scott's Jasmine is beautiful and elegant, but also strong, intelligent, and wholly independent. She takes what made Jasmine one of the most popular Disney princesses and expands on it perfectly. I adored Scott in this role. And as for the last main character, Marwan Kenzari plays Jafar. While I do think he is better in the film than the trailers made it seem, he is definitely the weak link. He just isn't all that memorable or threatening. He feels more like a spoiled teenager than a scheming, corrupt, politically savvy adversary. He's just fine. And then as for the supporting cast, they are all great. Standouts are Nasim Pedrad as Jasmine's handmaiden Dahlia. She adds a lot of great comedic moments that had my whole theater laughing. Billy Magnuson also adds some surprisingly great comedy as the Germanic Prince Anders. I found Numan Akar also really solid as the Honorable General Hakim. His character helped to ground the entire film a little. And Alan Tudyk lends his voice to the parrot Iago. While this beloved character does not talk nearly as much as he does in the animated film, Tudyk does a solid job and helps to make Iago a lot more menacing than he originally was when voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. Overall, the cast is sublime, even though I found Kenzari's Jafar to be a little off. Costumes, hair, and makeup. The costumes, hair, and makeup are gorgeous in this film. Colorful, vibrant, and beautiful. Blues, pinks, reds, greens, whites, golds, oranges, teals. The characters in this film look fantastic. Naomi Scott's Jasmine in particular looks stunning. She has so many different wardrobes that seem to change every few scenes, and they are all wonderful. And many of them aren't colors that I would even think about putting together on her, but the costume designer Michael Wilkinson nailed it. Scott is just beyond gorgeous in this film. Mina Masood's costumes as Aladdin are also phenomenal. They are less pronounced than Jasmine's, but that is mostly because his colors are a lot more earthen and calm. They fit Aladdin's personality nicely, and he looks great in them. Will Smith's genie also looks excellent. When he is in human form, he only has one main costume, but it is vibrant, detailed, and looks amazing on Smith. And this is pretty much my opinion on all the wardrobes in this film. Colorful, beautiful, detailed, and great to look at. The only exception is Marwan Kenzari's Jafar. It's not that his look is bad though, it's just more plain than the rest. Very black and drab. It is definitely accurate to the animated film's look, but it just didn't pop the same way that everyone else's did. Set design. Just like the costumes, the sets here are beautiful, full of color and detail and flair. Agrabah has many different colored Middle Eastern buildings, dye vendors, carpets galore, food, culture, and an expansiveness and lived-in feel that I didn't really expect. It feels like a real place. I have been to cities like it when I was in Egypt and Morocco, and I think the film captures the best parts of those locations' cultures, romanticizes them tastefully and respectfully, and presents them in a wonderful fashion. And if Disney added an Agrabah section to one of their theme parks that allowed me to wander the streets of the city, I would visit it as soon as possible because I loved its design that much. Similarly, the palace in Agrabah is just as well realized. From its little decals to its courtyards to its bedrooms, I actually felt like I was in the palace when it was on screen, and the film does an excellent job at realizing its size and structure so that I actually felt it and understood its layout. And just like the city itself, the palace is full of beautiful and creative details that bring Middle Eastern culture and architecture to life brilliantly. And the only other big set is that of the Cave of Wonders, which is awe-inspiring. While there isn't much to it, the use of colorful gems, natural rock formations, and lighting make the whole place look magical, and that is exactly how it should look. The sets of this film are so fantastic, in fact, that when a whole new world starts to play and Aladdin and Jasmine are flying on their magic carpet through the palace, the streets of Agrabah, and the surrounding environment, I could fully understand the wonderment and awe that they felt as they both stared out at the beautiful world that the film created, because I felt it too. Choreography. First, the action. A lot of it involves chases and a fair bit of parkour through the streets of Agrabah and over its rooftops, and it is very engaging. Ritchie has always done very stylish action sequences. For instance, I love the chase sequence in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows, and the chase sequence through the streets of Londinium in King Arthur: Legend of the Sword. Ritchie brings a stylishness to his action sequences that isn't present in every director's work, and as an audience member and a fan of Ritchie, they are a nice breath of fresh air. And as for the dance numbers in this film, I found them fascinating. They tended to mix Middle Eastern dance with, at times, a dash of hip-hop. It was a strange mix, but it often worked well. The dances never stole the show from me, but they were fun. Cinematography. This is, for the most part, a great-looking film. The sets, action, and production design always look amazing. The color, the framing, the scope, gorgeous. However, expertise seems to halt a little when the musicals happen. They aren't bad, but I don't think Guy Ritchie had much of a clue on how to film a musical. In fact, it felt like Ritchie kinda tried to film them like action sequences, and the result isn't perfect. The camera isn't always exactly where it should be, and oftentimes just felt like another scene as opposed to a musical number. Again, it isn't bad, just obvious that Ritchie was a little out of his element. And again, besides this, the film looks fantastic. Editing. While most of the editing is well done, the film feels smooth and there are some great uses of slow-mo, the musicals again feel a bit off. At one point during One Jump Ahead, the whole scene is either sped up or had frames cut out from it to emulate freneticism, and it felt strange. It just took me out of the film a little, but jankiness during the musical numbers aside, the film is edited together quite well. CGI. The CGI is relatively good, in some instances even great. In fact, I thought Raja, Jasmine's pet tiger, was really well done. Also, a lot of the environments and sets look wonderful when they are rendered in CGI, in particular the Agrabah cityscape and palace, and the Cave of Wonders. But considering that this film has multiple fully CG characters, it was bound to feel a little off at times. Yes, Will Smith's genie has a few moments when he feels strange, and the magic carpet and Abu sometimes do feel CG, but by and large, this whole movie is pretty darn good in the CG department. Music. The songs are not as strong as they are in the original animated film. They are good, just not as memorable, mostly because we already know most of them, and it doesn't feel like the singers in this version are as strong as the original singers. I did like them a lot actually, but sometimes they do feel a little off. However, I thought many of the slight variations of the classic songs were well done. In particular, Will Smith adding his hip-hop rap roots to the Genie songs really helped to set him apart from Robin Williams' version of the character.
You were caught in a dance, you were lost in the trance of another Arabian night. Arabian nights, like Arabian days. Well, Alibaba, he had them 40 thieves. Scheherazade, he had 1,000 tales. But master, you're in luck, because up your sleeves you got a brand of magic never fails. You got some power in your corner now, heavy ammunition in your camp. You got some punch, pizzazz, and how? All you gotta do is rub that lamp and then I'll make way, here he comes, ring bells, bang the drum. You're gonna love this guy, Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababa. Show some respect, boy, genuflect, down on one knee.
No one to tell us no, or where to go, or say we're only dreaming.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew.
There was a new song in the mix as well, and I thought it was also very well done. It serves to really characterize and empower Jasmine even more. People have been comparing it to Frozen's Let It Go, and while I don't think it'll catch on as much as that song did, it is just as powerful, and Naomi Scott delivers it with a stupendous amount of pizzazz. I liked it a lot.
I won't be silent, you can't keep me quiet, won't tremble when you try it, all I know is I won't go speechless, speechless, let the sun in, I cannot.
And as for the musical accompaniment, it is a perfect combination of Middle Eastern music and classic Hollywood fanfare. It always fit with the scene and always enhanced it. Direction. Guy Ritchie really dialed it back with this film, and I don't think that's a bad thing. His last film, King Arthur Legend of the Sword, was the frenetic Guy Ritchie that I have known cranked up to an 11. But he really calmed down with this one. It still has his unique visual flair, and he did a wonderful job at capturing the production design of this film, except at times during the musical numbers. But this slight problem aside, I think Ritchie was a great choice for director, and the final result is a remake that respects the original's legacy, while adding to it just enough to make this version feel unique, and not like the cash grab that it, in all honesty, is. And the fact that Ritchie was able to do that is pretty fantastic. My enjoyment. I wasn't expecting to like this film all that much, but I found myself falling in love with it as it played out. The production design was breathtaking, and the believable romance that developed on screen was infectious and lovely. I found it to be a really entertaining film, and while I've never been a huge fan of musicals and the classic Disney animated films, this remake has won me over. The songs have been playing in my head over and over, and I actually am looking forward to seeing it again. I thought it was great. Recommendations. If you are a huge Aladdin fan, I recommend checking this one out. It's like the classic version of it, but with enough differences to make it feel fresh again. It's also the perfect film if you are looking for a good romantic film, because this film is really romantic. On the flip side, however, if you don't like the original Aladdin, this film will not be for you. It doesn't change the original enough to make it different in its themes. Also, if you are adamantly against musicals and/or romance, this film may not win you over either. But for anyone looking for an infectiously fun, entertaining family film with a ton of romance, you should have a great time with this one. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you want to add anything, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I am Professor Kino, and I look forward to our next discussion.